children, welcome to history class. Today I am going to teach you history of a standard 8, chapter 6, that is the Wevers, iron smelters and factory owners. That we today discussed about iron smelters and factory owners. We already studied the cotton textiles. This is the lessons part 2. We have to study about the sword of Tipu Sultan and steel industries in India. Iron and steel industries. Okay. You take your test also. The sword of Tipu Sultan and wood steel. Can you see the sword of Tipu Sultan? Okay. Okay. Then we begin the story of Indian steel and iron by recounting the famous story of Tipu Sultan. And he ruled Mysore till 1799. Iron and steel the story of Tipu Sultan. And he fought 4 wars with the British and died fighting with the sword in his hand. He at last died with a sword in his hand. The Tipu's legendary swords are now part of a valuable collections museum in England. That is now found in the museums in England. Then the sword had incredibly hard and sharp edges that could easily rip or hit through the opponent's armor. It is very hard. That's why it hits the opponent's armor easily. And this quality of a sword came from the special type of high carbon steel called boots. This is built with a high carbon steel that is called boots. High carbon steel wood steel. Wood steel, when made into swords, produce the sharp edges with a flowing water pattern. It is a look like as flowing water pattern and sharp is its edge is very sharp. So this pattern came from a very small carbon crystals embedded in the iron. It is made with a carbon crystals and with the iron. Then Francis Birchman and who toured through Mysore in 1800. A year after Tipu Sultan's death, has left us an account of technique by which wood steel was produced. And Francis Bushman, he left the account of the technique in which this wood steel was made. And in many hundreds of smelting furnaces in Mysore, there this sword was made. Smelting here means the process of obtaining a metal or a rock by heating it very high temperature. That is a smelting. That is heating with a high temperature in a rock or a metal. This process is called smelting. The woods is an anglicized version. Woods is an anglicized version. In Malayalam it means urik. That's meaning steel. So Indian wood steel fascinated European scientists. So Michael Faraday, the legendary scientist and discoverer of electricity and electromagnetism, spent 4 hours studying the properties of Indian woods. This was fascinated by Michael Faraday. So he studied 4 years to how these properties of Indian woods was made. And you know that Michael Faraday, he was a scientist and discoverer of electricity and electromagnetism. Then, and these are about this wood steel. This with this woods, this Tipu Sultan sword was made. Then what about iron and steel factories that came to India? In the year 1904, in the hot month of April, Charles Wood, an American geologist, and Dorabji Tata, the eldest son of Jamshedji Tata, traveling through the Chhattisgarh to find about iron ore deposits. In 1901, what happened? And Dorabji Tata and his friend Charles Wood, he was an American Charles Bird, an American geologist, traveled through Chhattisgarh for what? To find the deposit of iron ore. They had spent many months for looking for the sources of iron ore. പല മാസങ്ങളോളം ഈ അയൺ ഓർ അന്വേഷിച്ച് അതിൻ്റെ നിക്ഷേപം അന്വേഷിച്ച് നടന്നു. And set up an modern iron and steel factory in India. What's their purpose? To build a iron and steel plant in India. So Jamshedji Tata had decided to spend a large part of his fortune to build a big iron and steel industries in India. His aim was to build Jamshedji Tata. His aim was to build an iron and steel industry in India. So in order to find a suitable place or where these deposits are found, he spent many months in India in search of iron and steel deposits. One day, after traveling for many hours in the forest, Weld and Dorabji came upon a small village and found a group of men and women carrying basket loads of iron ore. At this time, one day they saw that men and women carrying basket loads of iron ore. And these people were called Agarias. അപ്പോൾ എന്താണ് ഒരു ദിവസം ഇങ്ങനെ നോക്കിയപ്പോൾ ഛത്തീസ്ഗഡിലൂടെ നടന്നപ്പോൾ ഒരു കൂട്ടം സ്ത്രീകളും പുരുഷന്മാരും എന്ത് തലയിൽ വെച്ചുകൊണ്ട് വരുന്നു? ബാസ്കറ്റ് ലോഡ്സ് അയൺ ഓർ. ആൻഡ് ദീസ് പീപ്പിൾ വെർ കോൾഡ് Agarias. When they asked where they had found the iron ore, the Agarias pointed to a hill in the distance. Where they found they pointed a hill. And and Dorabji reached the hill after an exhausting travel and dense forest. On exploring the hill, the geologists declared that they had at least last found what they had been looking for. With so many researchers, they found the deposits of iron ore there, where in Chhattisgarh. Rajhara Hills had one of the finest iron ores in the world. World's finest iron ore deposits are found in the Rajhara Hills. The region has a dry and water necessary to running factory was found nearby. Thus, but in that region, what is the problem? There was a scarcity of water there. So the Tatas had to continue their search for more suitable place to set up their factory. The iron ore deposits were found. Then their next problem was where they set up the factory, and they wanted enough water also. So, however, the Agarias helped the discovery of a source of iron ore that would later supply Bhilai steel plant, and his discovery ultimately led to the discovery of a Bhilai steel plant. And a few years later, the large area of forest was cleared on the banks of river Subarnarekha to set up a factory and industrial township at Jamshedpur. At last, they found near the river, that is the name of river, Subarnarekha. They wanted to set up a factory that's now called this township at Jamshedpur. And here, there was a water near, which water? That is Subarnarekha river. And deposits. The Tata Iron and Steel Company that came on being and producing steel in 1912. That's 1912. This factory came into being. That's name was Tata Iron and Steel Company. Shortly, it is called TISCO. Tata Iron and Steel Company came into existence 1912. And in the late 19th century, India was importing steel that was manufactured in India. At the late 19th century, India imported steel from Britain. And the expansion of railways in India had provided a huge market for rails that Britain produced. And it was a great market for Britain, iron and steels, because railways work was growing in India. For a long while, British experts in the Indian railways were unwilling to believe that good quality steel could be produced in India. But British experts did not believe this because they were unbelievable to produce a high quality iron and steel will found in India. So in 1914, the First World War broke out. You know that First World War broke out in 1914. And steel produced in Britain now had to meet demands for war in Europe. So British iron was not to imported in India because they concentrated for war. So, imports of British steel into India declined, and the Indian Railways turned Tisco for supply of rails. And British were failed to import iron to India. That's why Indian Railways turned Tisco for supply of rails. അപ്പം റെയിൽവേക്ക് വേണ്ടിയ അയണല്ലേ ആര് കൊടുക്കാൻ നിർബന്ധിതനായി? ടിസ്കോയിൽ നിന്നും കൊടുക്കാൻ. കാരണം ഫസ്റ്റ് വേൾഡ് വാർ കണ്ടിന്യൂ ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടിരിക്കുക. സോ as the war dragged for several years, Tisco had to produce shells of carriage wheels for in the war, and then Britain concentrated on war for several years. Or 1919, they came into being, ended the First World War. Then 1990, colonial government was buying 90% of the steel manufactured by Tisco's. At this time, and then most 90% of the steel was manufactured by this Tisco. So they all buy the steel from Tisco. Then at the time, Tisco became the biggest steel industry within the British Empire. In the British Empire, the Tisco was developed as the highest steel industry in India. That's about Tisco. It's important. So you read that well. That portion is very important. So you study well from the test. So today's class is over. You read the lesson. Okay. Thank you.